Today, we are going to be doing some light mods to the sign, painting the back of it nice and flat black so the front pops. And then we're going to be converting the battery power source to a USB wall wart so it actually can just be plugged in and left alone. Let's get going. So to start with, we are replacing the batteries, the sort of stock battery setup with a little replaceable battery setup, or not replaceable, but plug-in sort of dummy battery setup. The idea is we're going to make it something that can just get plugged into the wall and left for an extended period of time without having to worry about your batteries being charged.
Yeah, we're using something called a Lenny power supply cable. Supposedly it should work. We're gonna see if it does live, right, Chris?
Yeah, we're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. It was like $8 on Amazon. The idea is you have USB 3 AA batteries plugging into a connector that goes into USB, and hopefully.
And it is supposedly pushing 5 volts, which is presumably right in the range that we want to be.
It's a standard. It's pretty standard voltage across like electronics for a consumer, right? For small electronics, toy electronics.
For this kind of a power supply setup where you've got like 3 or 4 AA's, yeah, it's pretty much like the range. That said, I'm a little worried that it's actually the demand on this, because it's running off of simple USB, is actually, or not simple USB, but because it's running off of just like a simple string of LEDs, the voltage demand on this might be lower than 5. What we're doing though, for the sake of some degree of safety, is we're using a isolated it's only putting out 5 volts. You'll recognize the 6000 mAh talent cell. If you're familiar with it, then you're already familiar with it as having a secondary USB power output that only pushes 5 volts. So, if the demand on this system is below 5 volt, we're gonna know really quickly.
What's going on here?
Our initial suspicions are correct. It is running off of basically a 5 volt supply. Greg figured, try swapping around your battery placement. So we actually have our actual wired dummy battery in the top slot here, and that made the difference. So now we can actually, voila.
Hell yeah! Now it can stay on forever if you plug it into your wall at home, or if you have a boost space.
Yes. So, and that's something like this is kind of ideal because it gives you that flexibility where now, you can see right now I have it plugged into the 5 volt slot on a talent cell and it's running off of that.
So the product works, that's great.
Yep.
I'll leave a link for that in the description below if you folks want to purchase it on Amazon.
So easy peasy first step, right? Now for painting, and we've talked about it before, but I'm gonna repeat this again. Painting is always 90% preparation, 10% execution.
Now, where are you putting the paper? Do you put it on the mold line, or do you put it a little past the mold line?
I'm kind of putting it a little bit past the mold line. I'm more concerned with getting a nice even line. Here, let me show you where I'm at right here. And I was gonna try to go like, I don't know, maybe like ½ an inch deep and make that kind of my line of demarcation. So
½ an inch from this mold line right here.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you could do the tape all around and then just attach the paper onto the tape. It doesn't have to be completely flat at that point, right? Just covering the front.
Yeah, true. And really what I'm trying to achieve taping on the sides here specifically is a nice even square. What you can see here is I am just the slightest bit off center on my line, and it started to create a little bit of creasing right here as it came to the corner, and then it becomes this really visible, obvious crease. And then it's very slightly skewed towards the front, which is the side that we are trying to protect from paint, but it's also gonna make our line at the other end basically just go really, really slow. And anytime that you start to see this, like start backing up and try to pull taut and come down a more clear center line, basically. Basically, I just went slowly and tore a bunch of pieces and did my best to kind of keep things as evenly lined up as possible. As I've mentioned a couple of times, painting is always 90% preparation, 10% execution. So just kind of, if you're trying to sort of copy what we're doing, take your time taping off. Just go slow. Tear off a bunch of tiny little bespoke pieces, use a little flathead screwdriver, whatever little tool you need, and as much time as you need, especially when you're working with a shape that's kind of irregular and sort of compound like this. If it was just like a flat square, it would have been a lot quicker and easier. But because we have like the hands and the pop out on one side, it took a little bit of time and a little bit of well, quite a bit of tape. Okay, so we are just about ready to start painting. One last step though, I'm gonna take this flight suit off so I don't get paint all over my engineer suit. So the wind is coming from this direction, which means we're gonna be going this direction.
Oh, what kind of spray paint we're using too?
I'm just using plain Rust-Oleum flat black. And we're just going to start from one corner and work our way around. If you've never spray painted before, I recommend holding it, I think the can directions say like 6 to 12 inches away. I tend to vary depending on what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve. So as you can see with that shot just now, I had the wind against me. I could hold it way up here, but that's gonna cause a bunch of overspray, so instead I'm gonna wait a second for the wind to die down just to... You'll notice we have a good amount of real estate to cover here, which is why I'm kind of starting at the outer edges and working my way in. And voila. Now, if it is warmer out when you paint, 70 degrees, you can wait an hour and put clear coat on it and it'll be good. Just leave it alone for like a week after that, and you should be solid, good to go, nice protected. Because it's a little cooler here at the moment, we're gonna let it sit and cure for a week, basically. And after a week, I'm gonna come back and give it a shot of clear coat.
1 week later.
Off camera, I went ahead and gave it a second coat of black, just as a touch-up to make sure it was nice and evenly black everywhere. And then I did a coat of clear coat on top of that, just to protect the paint so it won't get scraped off so easily. So now we are at our final step here, which is unveiling the final product. Okay, Gregory, moment of truth.
Did we miss any holes? We're gonna find out when there's black.
Yeah, honestly, if I were to do this again, I would probably go a little bit further and just go to the seam line.
I still think it looks great.
It still looks good, yeah. I'm happy with it.
Oh, you remove the tape there?
Oh yeah. And that is a full, well, a partial repaint and rewiring on the Trickers Treat Studios No Ghost Light Up sign. Now, obviously, you could go a little bit further with this if you are more of a painter or more comfortable with paints and want to completely redo Mowgli and his strikeout. There's definitely room for that, and I'm sure it would look gorgeous, and I would love to see it. So please share it on Facebook. The battery replacement is just a simple, cheap little dummy battery setup from Amazon. We'll have a description or a link below in the description. The only thing to bear in mind with that is where you put your actual powered dummy battery does matter. The placement does matter, but otherwise, that's how you do that, guys.
That's how you paint the back and convert it to USB power.
That's how you paint the back and convert it over to a wall plug. Until next time, I'm Chris Nance with the Northern California Ghostbusters, and we'll see you later, recruits.
Light is green, crap is clean.